So Netflix just released the Twilight series, so we've all been diving back into the best love story of 2008, and we've all maybe realized that's a bit embarrassing. Look, I'm not here to shame anyone's fandom. Full disclosure here, I read all the books back in the day, and I was a strong Team Jacob supporter until, Breaking Dawn made that super awkward. That being said, I think it's time we all admit that some of the moments in the Twilight series are a bit cringeworthy today.
It's not gonna be weird though, right?
No. Zero weirdness.
I distinctly remember being in high school when the first Twilight book got big. Everyone started passing around that book with the red apple on the cover like it was some dirty secret that needed to be shared. Once curiosity finally conquered me, it wasn't hard to see why. The enticing story of a shy girl who encounters a handsome vampire boy who was obsessed with her is exactly the guilty pleasure you want when you're a teenager. Sometimes, though, angsty teen romance doesn't translate well when it's adapted to the big screen. The Bella-Edward romance in the first movie was a lot more awkward in the movie adaptation than it was in the novel.
I mean, you don't even say hi to me.
Hi.
Watching Edward Cullen stare creepily at Bella because he hungered for her blood to the point that he could barely control himself didn't seem as romantic in real life. It wasn't until the scenes in the woods between the two that things got real awkward, though. Bad special effects, bizarre editing, awkward acting choices, and Edward's glittery skin in the sunlight made the moment where Bella discovers the truth unintentionally hilarious instead of passionate. The worst part was the infamous
So the lion fell in love with the lamb.
If this channel was called Shakespeare Rant, I'd tell you all about how Romeo and Juliet's a tragedy where two teenagers pretty much ruin the lives of everyone with their narcissistic obsession with one another. So you knew that things were gonna get real dramatic when Bella and Edward read it as a direct parallel to their own love story. I'm pretty sure even Romeo and or Juliet would tell the new moon couple to, calm it down a bit when their breakup drove them both over the edge. Literally. After Edward purposefully broke Bella's heart like he'd just seen Harry and the Hendersons the night before, Bella started acting out to try to get his attention. That meant taking bike rides with shady dudes even the Sons of Anarchy would reject and diving off of cliffs. Edward, on the other hand, decided that he would reveal himself to be a vampire so that the vampire police, the Volturi, would slay him after he thought Bella was a goner. All of this could have been prevented if their English class just read Much Ado About Nothing instead. Let's take a moment to feel for poor Mike Newton. He went on perhaps the most awkward date in all of cinema history. He tried to capitalize on Edward's absence by asking Bella out, only for her to invite another intense supernatural boy on their date. It goes so badly that he literally has to walk out of the movie and vomit, something Jacob enjoys shaming him for way too much. In his defense, the movie Face Punch sounds really intense. So this brings me to the problem we all have with Jacob Black. Obviously his inconsistent ab game. In New Moon, he has significantly more definition than he does in Eclipse. I mean, sure, he bulks up more for the third film, but it's at the sacrifice of the tone Taylor Lautner was so known for. Did that not bother everyone? Why isn't anyone saying anything? Just me? Oh, okay, let's move on then. The romantic tension building between Jacob and Bella throughout New Moon gets cut off at the knees once the movie makes a hard right turn to Rome, just as the flirting was getting real. Jacob, still very much in that headspace, takes things way too far in Eclipse when he forces Bella to kiss him even though she explicitly states that she doesn't want to. At least Jacob apologizes for this and the movie acknowledges that this was inappropriate behavior that no one should ever do, but it's still really uncomfortable. There's no denying that Jacob came on way too strong when trying to get Bella. I mean, you just know that those psychically linked werewolves were one more conversation about the friend zone away from kicking him out of the pack. That being said, Bella really didn't help things out by leading him on throughout all of Eclipse. The worst thing she could possibly do was to ask him to kiss her just as he was about to give up on chasing her. Then, when she was about to freeze, he used his werewolf body heat to keep her alive. The cringiest part was that Bella's psychic boyfriend was aware of every dirty thought Jacob had about her. The wedding sequence in Breaking Dawn Part 1 was remarkably true to life.
Jess, she is not pregnant. Okay. Who else gets married at 18?
The ceremony itself was a beautiful display of two lovers joining their lives together forever. Then the rest of it's dominated by terrible toasts, threats to the groom, and the jealous best friend getting really weird about the honeymoon. Should've just eloped in Vegas. As the series goes on, Edward gets less intense and controlling of Bella, while Jacob takes a hard turn in the other direction. By Breaking Dawn Part 2, Edward has fully accepted that Bella's an autonomous person and a powerful vampire more than capable of taking care of herself. Meanwhile, Jacob decides to make massive decisions for their entire family without consulting anyone. That included letting poor Charlie know that he's been living in an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the last 4 movies. As traumatic as that would be, Jacob decided to go about it in the single weirdest way possible. He decided to strip all the way down to his underwear before going full werewolf. I kinda think Charlie was almost relieved when all Jake did was turn into a giant monster. I was a huge Team Jacob fan until Breaking Dawn made the most questionable decision in the entire franchise. For reasons that I will never understand. The series ends with Jacob imprinting on Bella and Edward's newborn daughter. This means that there is nothing in his life that he will ever love more or care about more than Renesmee, or as he calls her, Nessie.
Nessie? You nicknamed my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster?!
Bella's reaction to this is nowhere near hard enough. What's worse is that they let him act as her babysitter or protector for the rest of the film. Then they show us Nessie's future where the two seem to be in a romantic relationship. It's not cute, it's not sweet, it's grooming, it's creepy, and it makes me want to call the Law & Order Special Vampires Unit. If there's one thing about Breaking Dawn Part 2 fans have been arguing about since the film came out, it's the big battle sequence. The movie spends most of the runtime building up an army to defend the Cullen family against the incoming Volturi. Once Alice steps forward, the showdown begins and it is Game of Thrones levels of brutal. Pretty much everyone gets slain as the two armies take each other on. Unfortunately, that's when it gets Game of Thrones levels of disappointing. It turns out that the entire sequence was just one of Alice's visions. This does prove to be enough to get the Volturi to get packing back to Italy, but it does make all the time building up the showdown feel more than a little worthless. Okay, I only agree to talk about Renesmee if the video editor promises not to show any of the CGI baby. No, don't do it! Seriously? I never want to see that thing again. Okay, good, now that that's covered, I would have been very happy if the entire saga would have just ended with Bella and Edward's wedding. The entire Renesmee storyline is just pure, undiluted cringe in its purest form. Bella's pregnancy, which devolves into awkward arguments about Bella's choices, becomes a sudden body horror story akin to Rosemary's Baby. Then the child breaks Bella's back and it takes Edward biting through his wife's chest to C-section their half-immortal child out of her body. As eye-opening as it was to go through the Twilight series, I feel like it's gonna be much worse when 50 Shades eventually drops on the streaming service. Oh, Christian Grey, we are really gonna be embarrassed by you one day.